Hello, my name is Michael Byrd, and today I have the awesome privilege to talk to you about church planting and the inner city. Now, my specific purpose in talking to you today is to inform you about the need, both the need and the difficulty of planting an inner city church. Few would argue about the necessity of planting new churches in the inner city. Now, though Scripture calls us to it, not many will jump head first into the call to plant a church, let alone in the inner city. Now, while church planting is difficult in any context, planting in the inner city is extremely difficult. It's a very daunting task. There's a deep need to plant new churches, and with the right information, with the right people, healthy churches could be birthed. An author and pastor by the name of Lewis, in his book titled Among Wolves, makes the point clear that we need indigenous people to minister in a context that has changed beneath our feet. Now, let's be honest. Time shows us, history shows us, that the inner city has changed in many ways in recent years. But while church planting is hard to do in any context, there are many barriers that make inner city church planting extremely difficult. But today, I just want to share with you three barriers that make inner city church planting hard. Number one, poverty. When we begin to think about poverty, we think about socioeconomics. Socioeconomic levels in the inner city are at an all-time low. And it will be difficult thinking through that for a church to become self-sustaining if the socioeconomic levels are low, right? There's not a lot of money, right? And while there may be resources, you still deal with residents who don't have the discipline needed to be good stewards over the resources that were entrusted to them. Due to low income for families in downtrodden areas, good facilities are even hard to come across for church plants. Those that do find it, it's tough to get them renovated properly because the socioeconomic levels are just so low. Not only is poverty a barrier in inner city planting, but second, lack of commitment. There's no quick fix to issues of the heart that plague the inner city. It takes longevity, a lifelong commitment to devote life and ministry to the urban poor. Lack of commitment is something that is definitely difficult in the inner city. Nobody wants to commit because everybody wants to be promoted. Everybody wants to move higher. But what the inner city needs is someone who has what it takes to stay put and be faithful. Those called to the task of inner city church planting must not only love the city, but love the people long term and journey with it. The good as well as the bad. Lack of community is a barrier. So not only do we see poverty as a barrier with inner city church planting, not only is lack of commitment a barrier in church planting, but number three, lack of commitment. While poverty and lack of commitment are barriers in the inner city, church planting is difficult in the inner city because of lack of community. Community, we define community as a group of people living together, having things in common. It's the feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. An author by the name of Jorge Mendoza, in his book titled Responsible Sibling, talks about the church. He says that the church is not like a family, but it is a family. And what's needed in the inner city is family, community that's willing to stay there and grow together. The church is comprised of many members, and we are not called to live on an island. God has entrusted us to live in community together. Now listen, friends, while there are many barriers to church planting in the inner city, it's still definitely needed. I believe that poverty, lack of commitment, and lack of community are The three most important barriers to planting a church in the inner city. But while those are difficult, there's nothing too hard for God. As we really think through this with this information, let's plant churches in the inner city and ensure that God gets the utmost glory. Thank you.